Hello, everyone. We're glad to have Mark here with us today. He's the founder of Markaudio, and he's going to talk about his products at Markaudio and also have a bit of a focus on the environmental issues and manufacturing. Hi, Mark.
Right, thanks, Cliff. Yeah, thanks for the introduction, and thanks everybody to this little mini video. And we do hope you're all very well, don't we, Cliff? Because COVID-19 has been difficult for everybody.
Yeah.
But interestingly, it brings forward the environmental issue. You know, we've now got millions of masks all around the world that have to be disposed of.
Yes, exactly.
And protective clothing that is being rotated and then has to be disposed of. So naturally, you know, you and I, and we wish everybody well, of course, but have you noticed that we're trying to solve one problem?
We create many more.
You know, and this is the reason why I've been so passionate about Markaudio and about full range drivers, because the mantra for us, you know, in our little factory with our workers and everybody else is, how can we, as a manufacturing entity, do more with less?
Right.
You know, it's probably the only game that's in town at the moment when it comes to trying to improve or protect or reduce the impact we have as a human race on the environment. And that's always been my driving force, always, and why I became so passionate about full range drivers. You know. And if we think about it for a second, typically, if we're looking at a typical bookshelf system, we can imagine a box, you know, bookshelf speaker system. Imagine a box. There's going to be a driver similar to this. This is a small woofer, mid-bass rather. They're often bigger than this, but for the purposes of our explanation, there's the woofer for the low range, there's the tweeter for the high range, and then behind and inside the box, we've got a crossover consisting of inductors and resistors and capacitors. So there's
right.
effectively in each box, just for a small bookshelf speaker system, there's 1, 2, and then the crossover. There's 3 sets of components, all full of metal, you know, steel, paper, plastic, ceramic, and so on. And in fact, just for interest, we talk about tweeters. There's a tweeter. That's a ribbon tweeter. I just weighed that a few minutes ago before we recorded. 3.9 kilograms.
That's a lot. It looks heavy.
3.9, just for the high range. 3.9 kg.
Wow.
And and I'm doing weights, and that's heavy. All of that gets replaced with one of those, or if you're into a smaller system with Markaudio, one of those. These are the little new MF4 drivers for the students in Japan this year, 2020, bless them. And these boxes, these are just test boxes from Dr. Scott Lindgren, and they're tuned to 70 hertz and will go past 25 kilohertz. Well, you know, that's 90% of the 90+% of the human hearing range, and probably does 95% of all typical music that people are going to listen to.
Right.
So when we put it in those terms, full ranges, well, I believe Markaudio full range drivers have now got to the stage of development and maturity where, particularly with the mono suspension drivers, we can produce really good high quality sound on a par with most multi-way systems. There are always those that want more power, and I would always say to anybody who says, look, you want a bigger system, sure, if you're in a big room, yes,
right.
but you know, do you really need to buy big systems? You know, when you've got to think, if you've got children, family, or your brothers and sisters have got children, and you know, what are we leaving them? You know, what truly are we leaving our children and our grandchildren and all the people to come? as we exhaust resources and consume resources at a phenomenal rate, even in these difficult times, well, you know, we're still using oil, not as much, but we're using oil. We're using natural resources. We're still digging iron ore out of the ground. You know, we are still consuming for 8 billion people on the planet. When you weigh that up, that's a lot of people. And then people often say to me, you know, as a design engineer, yes, but we can solve the problem, recycling. Now, you and I talked about recycling.
Right.
You know, and recycling has its own problems. To recycle, right, imagine recycling this thing.
I think they will have to break it down into small components.
Correct.
And separate the material before they could recycle them.
Yes, so immediately you've got an energy cost there, because you've got a recycling plant with workers, with machinery, with air conditioning or whatever they need, plus safety and protection depending on the toxicity of the material. And so you've immediately got an energy cost,
right,
and a resource cost, as you say, just to simply take this thing apart, you know, at the end of its life cycle.
Right.
Then, having taken it apart, what have we got to do then?
Separate them.
Well, we separated them.
Send them to different
right.
recycling
You've then got to send
plants.
exactly. You've then got to send all of the different materials to different specialist plants to, guess what? Well, melt the material down or reconfigure it. Oh, there's another energy cost. There's another resource cost. So the idea that 3.94 kg is a piece of cake to recycle, no, it's not.
No.
To recycle that, you're going to have to do damage to the environment.
Exactly.
So it's a very, you know, it's a very, very tough time for everybody. But at the same time, there is an opportunity here, in that the world's economies have now really gone into not quite dormancy, but they've really had to shut down because we have to protect people's lives. But as we open back up, we are in a situation where we can start to ask more serious questions about how do we manufacture? You know, how can we consume more wisely? You know, I mean, you know, I'll give you an example. Where I very rarely, if ever, try to buy bottled water. Now, some of the folks who know me well know that when I'm well enough, I try to go sailing. And I was horrified when I was in the Straits of Malacca a few months ago, before COVID, to see thousands of plastic bottles floating in the ocean. Absolutely bananas, you know. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. You know? So I just me personally, I recycle all the plastic bottles. So I managed to make one sort of water bottle that I bought from a shop, and then I recycle that. Yeah, you do exactly. You know, I've got some bottles that are 3 years old and still going strong. But you and I know we can go to a local beach. We're in Hong Kong. We see it in Hong Kong,
right.
But we can go to a beach almost anywhere in the world, and it's just bananas. You know. So, if we're coming back to Markaudio with that principle in mind, doing more with less, when we think we've got in a typical bookshelf system, you know, the woofer, the tweeter, the crossover, that's times 2 because it's a pair of speakers.
Right.
So that's 6 sets of components. 1, 2, 3 with the crossover, times 2, 6 sets. When you think that drive, that's a Pluva 11, you can take a MS11 or Alpair 10, you know, that driver will do as well in terms of frequency range, coverage, and even power handling compared to that. You know, this is we're now down to 2 components from 6. Markaudio has just made a 66.6667% reduction
That's
in the
impressive.
number of components required to get a nice sound. It's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it, from the environment, from the ethical point of view.
Right.
And I would say to anybody, fine. I mean, if you're not too keen on a Markaudio driver, fully understand. Everybody has their own personal taste, but consider what you buy. If you're going for a bookshelf system, you could experiment making it yourself or buying a kit with just one pair of full-range drivers. And you will be helping your children, you will be helping your grandchildren, you'll be helping the planet. And if we follow that principle right through to everything we buy, if we go into a shop and think, hang on, if I buy that, how much damage am I going to do to the environment, to the air we breathe, to the water we drink, to the food we eat? How much damage are we going to do? Because in manufacturing, just about every type of manufacturing is intense. It's materials intense, it's worker resources intense, it's energy intense. Well, it varies depending on the product and the type of operation, but nevertheless, manufacturing is a huge part of the world's economic drive system, but it's also sadly part of the world's world's pollution problem. So it's about working smarter, and it's about being smarter rather than just consuming more. That's the message. And I'm glad to say that in the 15, 16 plus years that since I founded Markaudio, that I'm finally able to get on camera and say, well, I really did it. Because I come from the energy industry. I come from, I come from two careers. I was a health promotion specialist and a public health specialist in the UK NHS, and communicable disease, which is a hot topic right now. Now, equally, I trained as an engineer. Both careers work well together because of the analytical nature of both types of work. So I've seen it from, and being in Asia, you and I are in Asia, and we've seen it. Asia is a massive developing region.
Yes,
but we've seen the cost of those developments, and the environmental cost, the pollution cost, and so with both my former National Health Service career and my engineering career, I've always felt that you have to look at the human dynamic and say, we have to be responsible for the environment and how we use it, because it does affect people's health. In the end, we can't avoid that issue, and tough though it is right now. But we've already heard on the news problems to do with disposing of masks. So So look, Cliff, thanks for doing this brief interview and letting me carry on talking.
Yeah, thanks for the inspiration that you've given us.
Well, that's very kind. And you come from the aviation industry, and you've been a good friend of mine for ages now. And we've often talked about these issues, even in aviation.
Right.
And well, isn't it interesting? Sadly, the watchers of the video, listeners and viewers, you can't actually see. Well, sadly, we can't point the camera. But were we able to point the camera here at the new territories in Hong Kong, you would see crystal clear blue sky, which is rare in Hong Kong. Because we're in an industrial part of the world, but because obviously factory production is considerably down, we have noticed the improvement in the environment. It's been a dramatic change, and again, well recorded around the world. In many countries, both developed countries and developing countries, the number of people that will have noticed, hey, wow, guess what? Oh, the air quality's improved. Environmental quality's improved. Here's an interesting situation. I'll just raise this, and then I'll leave everybody in peace. I had to tax my environmentally friendly car, relatively environmentally friendly car in the UK recently. I was on the tax website. We call it the DVLA, and the DVLA. So think about making your next car electric, because between 28,000 to 36,000 people per year in the UK die of respiratory diseases related to pollution.
Wow.
Up to 36,000 people, known cases, per year, year in, year out. That is a not dissimilar figure right now to the number of people that have died in the UK from COVID-19. And yet we're in this amazing, really sort of, almost, isn't it ironic that we're willing to accept 36,000 deaths per year from pollution, but we're not willing to accept, or we don't like, 36,000 deaths from COVID-19. I'd love to persuade everybody who's watching this video, especially if you're a young engineer, if you're a young environmentalist, if you're involved in wanting to make a better world. It's wonderful to get out there and champion and debate and campaign for change. But I'm now going to say to you all, whoever you are, young or old, campaign, yes, but also bring solutions. Bring solutions.
Right.
And make a difference. You can start making solution differences by doing what you and I do. We don't buy plastic. We don't buy bottled water. I've reduced my I've reduced the amount of kilometres I drive every year from something like 11,000 kilometres a year that I was doing. I'm now doing less than 1,000 kilometres a year.
Wow.
Because I catch the bus or I walk, and it's done me some good. It's improved my health, and I have to work very hard on my health because of cancer. So there's solutions immediately. And I would say to young Greta, bless you, well done for campaigning, but please now go and train as an environmental engineer. Go and train as an environmental scientist, or whatever else you want to do. Find a way, or ways of creating solutions. Yes, identify the problems, but create solutions. And that is what Markaudio was set up to do originally. That was my entire purpose, was could we produce high quality, hi-fi level sound using less components? And we've taken that right through to the mono suspension drivers, which use even less components. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I think everybody's going to get bored with me, but at least now, I think possibly for the first time, at least on video, people know what it is. Why did I set up Markaudio? What was my driving principle, my philosophy, and my passion? It's to do more with less. Thanks, Cliff.
Thank you. That's inspiring.
Thanks,
very,
everybody.
Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you.